I'm going to invite Patrick Kenny from the EPA, who currently leads the National Ambient Air Quality Unit within the Environmental Protection Agency's Office of Radiation Protection and Environmental Monitoring. Pat joined the EPA in 2002 and has held various positions in the Office of Environmental Assessment and Office of Environmental Enforcement. Before joining the EPA in March 2002, Pat worked in the pharmaceutical industry, and he's going to be focusing his presentation on the ambient air quality and how we are informing the public. So, Pat, whenever you're ready, thanks.
Thank you very much, Niall, and it's just great to be back here with you all in this room, all together here, and equally everyone that's online as well. So I'm going to talk through how we're informing, how we're hopefully engaging with, how we're communicating, and what we're communicating to the Irish public on air quality. So I'm going to talk through the National Ambient Air Quality Monitoring Programme, which we call the AMP, and that links through to our National Monitoring Network. I'm going to talk about our annual air quality reports, which historically have been one of our key tools to look to get our messages across. I'm going to talk about the Air Quality Index for Health, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time going into some detail on that, which is something that we haven't necessarily done at each of these events. We're just going to talk a bit about that. I'm going to very briefly touch on some new developments, Life Emerald and Clean Air together, in no way stealing the thunder from speakers that are going to come after me. And I'm going to talk about what can we do and what we actually talk about to the Irish public about what we can actually do about all of this. And I think it's what we can do. I think I'd echo Niall's thoughts. I'm very struck by certainly the start of Eilish's presentation. It's really, really very, very striking. And I think it really, if anyone was in any doubt of the reasons why we need to communicate cogently, engage, and ensure that our messages are resonating, I think that got a lot of that across. So the National Ambient Air Quality Monitoring Programme was launched in 2017. As Laura has said a little bit earlier on, we had 29 monitoring stations across the country. We've been very busy with all our partners for the last few years, and I'd like to thank those who were in the room who've helped us to get to now having 103 stations, and we're heading for 116 at the end and close of the programme. We've 6 newly online this year, and all this information, and that's what it is, and I'm going to talk about how it becomes information using the Air Quality Index for Health. All that information is available online on airquality.ie. You can see that map there showing the monitoring stations. The green dots are the national level stations, the yellow dots are the local monitoring stations. That's converted into an Air Quality Index for Health, looking to make this readily understandable, and it's all there for you on airquality.ie and also through the air pages of the EPA website. So we take all this data from this monitoring network and all of these stations, and on an annual basis we use it to create our air quality reports. And as Laura equally said a little bit earlier on, this year we've done something very, very different, and I really do need to say a large amount of thanks to those in our reporting and communications team who have, both within my unit and also our other colleagues, who've done so very, very good work to do something very different with the report this year. It is aimed at being far more interactive with its embedded graphics and videos and animations. And when you look at that report, and what does it actually say, and what are we informing the public about air quality through that report? Again, no exceedance of the EU limits, but the majority of our stations right across the country are not meeting those new, tighter guideline levels from the World Health Organization. The majority of premature deaths due to air pollutants are due to fine particulate matter, PM2.5, in our air. And both that fine particulate matter and nitrogen dioxide remain our main pollutants of concern and the main threats to good air quality in Ireland. That report is available online at www.epa.ie. There's a link also through airquality.ie. If you go on there to take a look at your local air quality, you can also link into the annual air quality report there as well. And again, if you haven't had an opportunity to take a look at the report in recent years, it was quite a weighty scientific tome. We've looked to move in a different direction on this to a much more engageful, I suppose, interactive report that at a very high level you can very rapidly, hopefully, get a good idea of what we're saying about air quality for 2021, or if you want to delve deeper into any of those individual topics, it is there for you through that report, acting as a portal effectively to all that information. And there's its cover from 2021. So to look a little bit further at what we are informing the public about air quality. For 2021, as I said, we didn't exceed any of the EU limit values, but this is one of the tables from that report, and you can see for the majority of stations, for that range of pollutants, we are not meeting those tighter WHO guideline levels. And just to pick on PM2.5 as being the most health impactful of those pollutants, you can see it's 65 stations out of 81 didn't meet the annual WHO air quality guideline level. Now, you've heard from earlier speakers that there is a draft recast of the CAFE or Clean Air for Europe directive that's out for consultation at the moment. So to put this in the context of that, if that were to be in place at the moment, and if that was to be assessed, or the way the 2021 data was assessed against, we would be looking equally then at 6 of our stations for PM2.5 would have been in exceedance of new limits that are being proposed, and another 6 would have been very, very close. That's in the context, again, to put it into numbers, that where we are at the current CAFE directive sets an annual limit value of 20 micrograms per metre cubed for PM2.5. Those new WHO guideline values are talked about going down to 5. The CAFE recast that's out there for consultation at the moment is talking about that coming in at 10 by 2030. So by 2030, that's what is currently being proposed. It's obviously out for consultation across the member states and the European Parliament, and there's a little bit of road left to travel before it becomes a finalised directive. But if that was the directive in place for 2021, we would have had exceedances at 6 stations and another 6 very close. So we look to take all this information as well and look to convey it in various graphical forms. So what we're looking at here is looking at a trend over time, which are very, very useful for us to convey how are things going. Are they getting better? Are they getting worse? Now, this is looking at zones across Ireland. So for the purpose, again, of our directive requirements, Ireland's split up into 4 zones. A is Dublin, B is Cork, C is large towns, and D is the rest of the country. And you can clearly see the levels are dropping. They have dropped since 2010, averaged out across zones. You can see again the current EU annual limit value. You can see the WHO air quality guideline at 5, and bearing in mind that what is currently proposed is for it to be 10, which isn't marked as a line on that, but we can see where 10 falls with that. But this, I think, again, doesn't really show the full story, because as from previous slides, there are very localized issues at individual station level that sometimes the overall trend downwards doesn't fully convey. And again, as I was commenting previously, the majority of our stations at a station level couldn't meet those tighter WHO guideline levels. So to look at this in a different way, and to look at it averaging across the seasonality for 2021, and this graph is all of the stations in 2021 averaged and put in by month. And this plays as a really, really strong video. Again, a promo for me on our air quality report. It plays as a very strong video in that report on airquality.ie. I'd really recommend you go in and take a look at it. Very good voiceover from one of my colleagues as well. Not from me, thankfully. But you can see that as we come out of the winter and go through the spring and go into summer, you can see those concentrations of PM2.5 just fall off. But unfortunately, as we head back into the winter for 2021, but it's the same in any year when we run these numbers, you can see that concentration start to rise back up again, really showing the seasonality and the impact of how we heat our homes on PM2.5 very clearly. And when we talk about heating our homes, again, we've developed a range of infographics, again, which are on our website, which we look to communicate out, in order to make all of these numbers, a lot of which you've already heard me talking about standing up here today, in order to make these numbers more readily understandable, and in order to look to convey, I suppose, as clearly as possible, from, in this instance, a home heating perspective, the best choices and the worst choices when it comes to heating your home. So you can see at the top of this infographic, it's running along the means of heating your home, all the way through from the solid fuel choices, going through oil and gas, through to more renewable sources. Underneath, we're talking about those choices in the fuels that you use and how you heat your home, and then it links into videos. And for me, just to pick on that bit about the fuels, even if you are in a position where you are For economic reasons or geographical reasons, it's a solid fuel heating system that you have. If you have the option this winter, and not everyone does, and this is going to be a very difficult winter for a lot of households, but if you have the option to make a change in the fuels you use, you can have a positive impact on air quality in your local area. The Air Quality Index for Health. This is available, again, on airquality.ie. It's an index. It's taking all of the numbers for all the pollutants and converting them into a colour-coded index from green good through to purple being very poor. And it relays out on a map at a station-based level, updating every hour. There's linked health advice, which is on the next slide, and there's a Twitter feed at EPA Air Quality that you can sign up for. The linked health advice, again, the Air Quality Index for Health was worked together, ourselves, the HSE, the department and Met Éireann, and the HSE were very much our partners and were involved, and therefore the health advice. So there's health advice for each of the bands for at-risk individuals and the general population. So when you see the colour change on airquality.ie of the Air Quality Index for Health, you can go and take a look and see what does that mean for you and your family if you're at the general population or at-risk individuals. I'm going to very briefly say Life Emerald, Clean Air Together, and indeed Globe Schools. There's some very good work happening that you're going to hear about from other speakers, Life Emerald being a large-scale modelling project, Clean Air Together being really a flagship citizen engagement project. You're going to hear a lot more from my colleagues, Kevin Delaney and Sabrina Moore, about these, but these are other means that we have to both engage with and inform the public about air quality. What can we do? Okay, we've heard, I think already it's clear that we need to move towards the WHO Air Quality Guideline values. Measures addressing fuel poverty really should and can also improve air quality. Local authorities need to ensure that adequate resources are assigned for their air enforcement activities, the publication of the Clean Air Strategy, and national investment in clean public transport. To look at our pollutants of concern, for PM2.5, fine particulate matter, its home heating is the dominant source. We need to, where we can, change how we heat our homes, but the public need to be supported in this. And an absolutely key message that I'm going to echo again is that, again, given that this is going to be a difficult winter, but if you do have a choice, particularly if you have a secondary, if you have a primary home heating system that's oil, gas, electric, or renewable, that can make your home comfortable and warm, if you are if you have the option and the choice is available to you to not use that secondary solid fuel heating system, you're going to have a really positive impact on the air quality in your local area and on the health for you and your community. And that really is a key message if you are in the position to make that choice. I do appreciate not everyone is, but if you are, you're going to have a very positive impact on your local area. There are supports available through the National Retrofitting Scheme. They'll make your house comfortable and warm. You're also going to have a positive benefit on your local community as well by going for those. When it comes to NO2, which is a transport-derived pollutant, it's if you can, reducing your car usage, even for that last kilometre. It will make a difference on the overall concentration and the impact on health in your area. Leaving the car at home, even again, if it's 1 day a week, if everyone across large urban areas made that sort of a shift, you will see a positive impact. Carpool if it's possible, working from home if you can for part of your working day. And again, if you can afford it, from an air quality perspective, most certainly going electric on your next car purchase is going to be a positive. So I'd just like to thank you for listening through to this talk. Hopefully you have more information on where you can access information on air quality, both through www.airquality.ie and the air pages on www.epa.ie. And I know I flagged a couple of other talks from my colleagues that are coming up in the next session that are going to talk through essentially linked items of how we both engage with and look to inform the Irish public. And just as I close, just again, very, very struck by certainly the starting parts of the presentation from yourself, Eilish. Yeah. Thank you.